Hello everyone, welcome back to Tina Teach JavaScript 101. Today's lesson is about function or blocks of code that we can reuse. No need to, retype or redefine anything that we need to use more than once. Now, what is a function? A function is, as I've said, a block of code that does something. It's best that a function should only do one thing, so you don't get confused. Higher in production, it will be really complicated to debug if a function does, let's say, 2, 3, or 5 things at a time. Right? It's better to have 5 separate functions that does that instead of one that does everything. It's sort of like a factory, a manufacturing line. Each employee does one thing, they do it very well, and the manufacturing line move as fast as it could, saving cost and time, right? If an employee were to do something, let's say 5, 6 different tasks, they would not achieve the same level of efficiency for the company, okay? And the same logic applies to your code, so keep that in mind. And one thing that I would like to approach is that a function is only executed when it is called or invoked. Okay, sorry, my PowerPoint is a bit slow. If you write a function and you just leave it be, it's not going to do anything. As a matter of fact, it's quite the same as just having some comments in your code. You have to call it somehow, be it by a button or an event that would trigger it. And this is the syntax of a function. Okay, function, my function, you have these parameters x and y, return x plus y. So when you call a function in this variable, as it did right here, you can pass in these parameters, which will be substituted over here, and the output of this is put into the call func variable. Okay, I try to draw an arrow, but I fail, so let's do this, okay? Why use a function? With functions, you can reuse blocks of code as much as you want without rewriting, right? Libraries, any programming languages with libraries, they also use functions extensively. That's how you get, the square root method or the sort or the filter, right? Importing libraries is just importing a bunch of functions in, so you don't need to define, basic things that should be natural. Now, let's move on to this operator. This operator calls the function. As I've mentioned, you need to call or invoke a function for it to be executed. Otherwise, it's just going to lay there. The wrong parameter will return an incorrect output. Without the operator, the function is returned instead. Now we have a function that converts Fahrenheit, that converts Fahrenheit, this parameter, into Celsius. We're going to return 5 divided by 9 times the parameter Fahrenheit, so whatever the user or us put in, minus 32. So let value to Celsius, we're passing in 45. We are converting 45 Fahrenheit into Celsius using the formula that's inputted into the body of the function, okay? So let value to Celsius, there are no parameters whatsoever, but the function expects a parameter. It cannot work without the Fahrenheit parameter. So your Visual Studio Code, let's say, if you're using that, will give you an error. It will say, we were expecting a parameter here, but we don't find any. Like, can you give us, right? And without this 2 parenthesis operator, it's just going to give you back the function. Okay, it's going to give you back the name of the function. An interesting thing with function is that you can basically put them anywhere. Well, you can put them as variables, and you can, whenever you trigger these variables, you trigger the function as well. Let's say you are uncertain about the value of a variable, right? Or you want to calculate the value of a variable, or you want to calculate the value of a variable, as I've done here with conversion, right? Conversion doesn't have an output yet. You can assign a function as a value to the conversion, okay? And then you can maybe pass in a parameter, whichever value you'd like, and you'd have a whole new system of generating value for a variable, right? There's no need to know a variable value beforehand, because sometimes that is quite complicated. You know, what if the value that a variable holds depends on user input, right? If so, then manually assigning values to variable will simply not work. Within this lesson, I'm just going to introduce you to the concept of functions. In future lessons, as we advance further, I'm going to incorporate this, into a demonstration where you can see the pros and cons of having a function, as well as using a function to assign values to variables. That's it for today's lesson. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and stay tuned for the next lesson. See you next time.